Did you have the opportunity to take shop class when you were in either elementary, middle, or high school? Well, I did, and it was just magical. I had my first step stool, my footstool that I made, my bookends, and I made a bunch of other things, but it was just fantastic. It was an opportunity for me to learn how to use a saw. So I cut wood, I hammered nails, I learned how to measure. And as they taught me, measure twice, cut once. And it was just a lot of fun. My guest is a former digital product manager and now the founder of Maplewood Shop, which is a portable woodworking system, or otherwise known as a shop class in a box. And he's going to tell us all about it. Mike Schloff is joining us, and he's going to tell us the process of how he created this whole brilliant concept. But also, he was one of those kids with ADHD. And he had a hard time sitting in class when he was younger. And it's an important program for kids with or without ADHD. And his mom, Linda, was also still today plays a big role in his life from as a child and an adult. So we have a lot to talk about. Now, has brought the Maplewood Shop. Mike has brought Maplewood Shop into hundreds of charter schools, public schools, homeschoolers, camps, and more, not only in New Jersey, where he lives, but also New York, Florida, California, Maine, Washington State, and I believe even in Australia. So we'll get Mike to, once we start talking. Oh, good. And some of the many benefits of the Maplewood Shop program is that it teaches our kids to work together, to help one another, to troubleshoot programs, and it keeps kids off their phones. Mike Schloff, welcome to Should Have Listened to My Mother.
Jackie, thank you so much, and thanks for all you're doing.
I'm so excited. Mike and I started chatting back and forth just about a year ago. So it's nice to finally have this happen. And since that, in that year, you have really redesigned things and got more comprehensive. And now this product, Maplewood Shop, is really out there with kids using it every day, right?
Yep, every day, all over the country and Australia as well. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Also, there's the Carpenters Union that's involved in too, so we'll talk about that a little later. Okay. I didn't know if that was still on the table, which is really great. We need people in this country who have a craft or a skill. We're running out of that because not many people want to get their hands dirty. So this is so important for so many reasons. But when you think back, because you sent me beautiful pictures of you and your mom reading books and things in bed at night, Linda had the wherewithal, the genius, the idea that you needed something too, other than sitting in a chair all day long.
Yes, yes. She understood that I was not good at sitting still, and it's interesting because you go back to when I was a child, and parents didn't really have the vocabulary that they have now to understand what ADHD means or even see it within themselves, right? We always say, oh, my kid has these problems, my kid's going to a therapist, et cetera, et cetera. But we aren't always as reflective within ourselves. And so going back to the 1970s, that was especially true. And so the advice she got from professionals was, I think it was like willfulness disorder or something that was a precursor to ADHD. So she did her absolute best to try and help with that. And so, yes, keeping me very active. It was the days of, you come home by sundown. I grew up in St. Paul, Minnesota, and so that was wonderful. Also, cycling was a family activity, and not as much with her, but with my father. I grew up fixing bicycles, and so really discovered early that I had this mechanical aptitude, and and that's what ended up transforming into woodworking in my 30s, and which created
Right.
wood shop in my 40s. So yeah, she was very instrumental in trying to keep me active.
Did she have a background in education or anything, or it was just what the specialists were telling her? Were you disruptive in class, or this is just something she noticed on her own?
So she noticed on her own. I was the third. I joke the third of two kids. because she had her hands full already with my older siblings. And then here I come with this happy, active baby who never sits still, never stays still. And I think it also, just as humans, sometimes in our children, when they exhibit behaviors that we know in ourselves and we may not appreciate about ourselves, um, it's hard to see that in your own kid. And so I think I was, somewhat of that to her. But in school, I was very disruptive, seeking negative behavior, attention, and I got kicked out of class a lot. I joke I spent half of elementary school in the hallway
Yeah,
because
but
I
it
was so
didn't it
disruptive.
didn't do it didn't help you, right? And obviously we didn't know then what we know now, but
Right,
either sitting in the principal's office, it's just such a waste of everyone's time.
right,
My
right.
mom would probably say, put them to work, like, make them
Exactly,
sweep the
exactly.
floors or wash
You're
them.
smart. Why don't you apply yourself? That
Oh,
was a
no, no,
common
no, no.
refrain.
So standing out in the hallway, yeah, that only goes so far, right?
Right.
Were you aggressive? Like, were you punching people if you got bad enough, or
A little
just
impulse
you
control
can,
issues. Sure. Absolutely. It all
yeah,
goes
that's all.
together.
Yeah,
OCD, anxiety, ADHD. It's the triumvirate. Um, and yeah, and she did the best she could. We
yeah.
just did not have the vocabulary. We did not have the appreciation of, multiple intelligences back then. And for her, education was everything. Her grandfather was educated. I think he was a rabbi back in the shtetl, the village that they lived in the Ukraine. And then her
Mm.
parents came over, and her father was educated, and he would read the newspaper and could talk about anything. But he died when she was in high school. Her mother had dyslexia, and so never really learned to read or write. And it was always very frustrating, and would, really imprinted on her two daughters how important it was to be educated. And so for us, the children of my mother, it was very important that we read, that we always were discussing topics, ideas. She was a poor kid from St. Paul that got married at 19, still got a Bachelor of Science in Medical Technology, like to become a lab technician.
Wow.
And then to show how important education was to her, she went back in her 40s and got a PhD in immigration history because, growing up Jewish in Minnesota, it's very rare. There's not many. And so it was very interesting to see these immigration patterns that she lived through. And then also, if you abstract it, seeing those patterns repeat again with Somalis now. And so there's all these connections, but that level of thought and interest and just thinking about, well, my youngest is 10, I'm going to go back and get my master's. Okay, my youngest is now 13, I'm going to go back and study for my PhD. And so
That's
it's a
very
real
impressive.
incredible
That's
accomplishment.
were you really aware of what she was doing, or was like, oh, mom's taking some classes?
I knew enough to stay away from her for a few years. So again, I
Maybe that
fixed a
was
lot of
better for you.
bicycles, did a lot of cycling, explored the neighborhood a lot. No, but really and then after she got her PhD, she founded a historical society to study Jewish immigration in the Upper Midwest and wrote books about immigration in the Upper Midwest. And so I would help her by organizing the physical artifacts. People would donate, someone would die and they would donate all their diaries, books, photo albums, and all these interesting
Wow.
artifacts. So I both helped catalog them physically and digitally by creating a database where she could track all these collections.
So that kind of work piqued your interest, sparked your interest.
Oh,
You could do it,
absolutely.
right?
We have a
That's like
joke that
detail oriented.
Yes. Oh, that's an interesting insight. Yeah, absolutely. The detail, how both the level of detail and that the details matter, and the idea of looking for the trends and what are the sort of human to human connections. And what can you abstract from that and what can you learn from it? So yeah, she was very instrumental in all of that.
So this is really important for parents and up and coming parents to understand everyone with ADHD is not the same, right? But everyone manifests it differently. But it's really great to share this information for many reasons, and that's why I love what you're doing with Maplewood Shop. Let me go back. Your mom's grandparents were Ukrainian, or her parents were
Yeah,
from Ukraine, or
the
both?
parents and the grandparents, but the parents, the ones who came over.
Okay, so your mom was born in the States.
Right.
It's so interesting. I'm so lucky. These people with Ukrainian heritage seem to migrate to me and this show, and it's so heartwarming. I absolutely love it because my heart goes out to
Mm.
the whole country. So here you are. You found that little niche with your mom. Were you angry at yourself, or did you know when they were putting you out, schools were putting you out in the hall all the day, or you were getting mad? Did that make you say, "Oh, I'm stupid. Something's wrong with me. Why can't I do anything right?"
Hmm.
Or you
You
didn't
know,
even, not even on your radar?
no, not like it was a. Did I feel bad about myself? Absolutely. I got a letter in seventh grade. My parents got a letter saying you should be ashamed of your son for
Oh,
that
come
kind of
on.
behavior. I mean, really not helpful, right?
Mm.
However, at home, it was never that you're dumb. It was that you're not trying hard enough. And so there was a big distinction. And so it never like put out that flame of curiosity, but it was the idea that later in life, I realized that it's useful to understand your own wiring. You know, if you can love yourself,
Yeah.
you can love others. If you can understand yourself, you can understand others. And so now with my children, I realize neither should sit behind a desk. And I think one of them really knows that now, and the other is coming to terms because we're kind of, with education and in general, there's sort of this one pathway, where you should go and go to high school, go to college, get a degree, you sit behind a desk. Like that's what success looks like. But there's a lot of forms of success. And so the more you can understand what gives you joy and gives you purpose, and then connecting those two, it's a lot easier to make a living because you don't burn out. You're not trying to be a round peg in a square hole. You can find the round hole and
Be
be
comfortable in
yourself, right?
it.
Be your
Yeah,
authentic self.
sure.
And you don't spend those mental cycles trying to, worrying if you're an imposter because you're just being yourself. And so I
Wow.
think that's the beauty. And it's a through line all the way to Maplewood Shop, which is to help kids understand their own wiring and understand they may have this talent in their hands that they never realized. But and so we can give that first exposure to that talent, and then they can take it and run with it and realize there's so many things I could do with this. And as an aside, things that AI will struggle to replace because they're physical, they require visual acuity, they require critical thinking and problem solving, but in the physical world, it's not about writing a better email, it's not about writing better code. It's about really problem solving mechanically and interpersonally, as you mentioned. It's teaching kids how to collaborate. And so I watched my mom collaborate with her classmates in graduate school, how she took care of her mother and her mother-in-law, taking them shopping every Friday, how I got to participate and eventually I got to drive and be their
Mm.
chauffeur. And I got a lot of joy and satisfaction out of that. Another dimension was how she's the youngest of two, but I'm the youngest. And so when you're the younger child, you observe a lot. You watch your
Yes,
older
I'm
siblings,
the
right?
youngest.
Exactly. And that's maybe why you do the show is because you're eternally curious about people because you grew up watching and listening and wondering. Same.
Right.
And it's a blessing. Sometimes it wasn't always fun when you were the littlest kid, but now you've got this gift of
Oh,
being empathetic,
wisdom. I say I
right?
have a PhD in many different, departments because I've watched all of my siblings experience life in their own way and like, oh, do I, this or that? What would I like?
Yeah, yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
great. But it also you don't have to be the youngest in order to get that that perspective, right? I mean,
Right.
obviously everybody. So was there a point in your life? Was it Did your ADHD get better or worse as you became a teenager with your hormones changing and all that? College, how did your mom adjust to any of that?
Interesting. So I switched high schools. I mean, I switched schools after eighth grade, and the high school I went to was much better suited for how I learned. It was a little more active, smaller classes. It was easier to navigate. And so her attitude was both schools offered a good education, and you're not going to apply to the second school until your grades are so good that they will let you in. So it took 2 extra years for me to switch schools.
But
And
you were motivated to do that because
I
if
was, I
a
was
child isn't
motivated.
motivated, like my son was in middle school and high
Right.
school.
But it's interesting. The For college, there were expectations. You'll go to a good school and all this, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a doctor growing up, but I didn't think I could study hard enough. And so I
Oh,
abandoned that dream.
that's not
And
good.
yeah, interesting. And then when it came to choosing schools, I was like, I don't know what I want to study. I want to study everything. And so
Mhm.
I chose to go to a big state school. Again, I'm from Minnesota. Madison, Wisconsin had reciprocity, so it was very, very cheap to go to Wisconsin, and I loved it because I could study Italian. I got interested in Italian studies, cartography, political science, philosophy.
But you
Now,
were you were interested in that point because a lot of kids when they're in elementary, middle school and all that, they haven't figured out how fascinating education and learning is, right?
right,
So there's so many different parts and elements to our growth. And once you're like, wow, this is amazing. I can study Greek history. I can go to Fellini. I could do all of that just by picking up books.
right. And so,
So
it helped that I was able to read. I'm lucky. It didn't affect, I was able to read, I was able to process that information, I was able to write. It took me a long time to learn how to write well. My cursive is terrible because I didn't have the attention span to sit and do that. Um, but it's and it's happened with my father too. By the time I was 21, something clicked and I was able to focus better. Drank a lot of coffee.
oh,
And
really?
I was able to focus and lock in. And when I found something I was interested in, again, ADHD, when you're interested in it, there's nothing else in the world, right? You hyper focus. And so for me, it was great because I could choose to get interested in something and hyper focus and learn it.
And no one's going to get in your way. You are so
Right,
driven. That's
right.
fantastic.
But yeah, and growing up with her, having that drive and focusing and reading and writing and studying and presenting. Yeah, she was a great role model for how to do that. I never saw my father study. I mean, actually, that's not true. I didn't see him studying in an academic sense, but he would, 1 week a night, he would read journals. He was a doctor, and he would read medical journals and keep up with things. So
Maybe he
I
read
spent a
so
lot.
much in medical school. I
Yeah,
mean,
but even
reading for fun,
he didn't do
creating.
great in college, and then in medical school he did great again because his brain, like the frontal lobe, developed and he was able to click in. So
Hallelujah. Oh,
yeah,
that's so
but that
neat.
idea of service, helping others, um, uh, education, resilience, um, and also, it's healthy in moderation, not the way it was presented to me, but there's always more. It's never good enough. You can do better, you know?
No,
And so it's good though, because it pushes you to strive. Striving, things shouldn't be easy. Things shouldn't be impossible, but to strive, to try. Like you see kids who are smart and they make it through high school without ever applying themselves. Then they get to college or some other situation, and they're like, "Oh my God, I do not know how to try, and this is overwhelming."
that's bad.
And
That's,
so
it's
having that
unfortunate, I should say.
limitation,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it's unfortunate, but having a limitation that forces you to try, forces you to strive. And whether it's learning how to do woodworking or learning how to just finish an assignment, you learn the tricks of how to get it done. And so the trying is the important part. The results come from the trying. But if you never
This
learn
is
to try, you just don't even know where to start.
Or you didn't need to try because you were already, getting those grades that were okay
Yeah, it was the
or
wrong
good.
metric, right?
Wow, this is so cool. This perspective is wonderful. Now, were your siblings jealous of the amount of time your mom or dad spent with you?
Oh no, because they
Getting in trouble?
they were getting in trouble, so they were sucking all the oxygen out of the room. And it was only when they left the house. I was in ninth grade and they were both out of the house,
Oh,
and
okay.
my parents were like, "Huh, oh, you," you know. I'm like, "Really
You're
now?"
still here?
Yeah. So no, they were both interesting people. They were both artists, but now they both have trades where they work with their hands as well, or visually. And so my sister also had dyslexia, and but she turned that into an incredible photography career as an artist, as a professor, and now she can go into a condo or an apartment and see what it could look like and then renovate it, before it's renovated. So she's got this eye
A
that's
vision for beauty and
incredible,
detail. And what
right?
is your sister's name? Can we mention her?
Sarah. Yeah. So Sa is an incredible, yeah, artist and now, contractor because she also
Wow, that's
understands
great.
the physicality of materials but a light, how will light work with this material? So she's a real artisan when it comes to my brother is the same, but with clothing. And he was the oldest and was, a good reader, a good test taker, good writer, kind of the perfect, what my mom was looking for. And now he applies that with clothing. He works for a small men's clothing company
Mhm.
and knows everything about fabric and cut and styles.
What's his name?
Aaron.
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 So we always talk about, and people that I'm, about to interview or I have interviewed, they talk about figuring out who they are specifically versus instead of fitting in a mold. It's if you're different, people call you weird, or you don't fit in that mold, so you're odd, and obviously teens tease you and bully you and all that kind of stuff. But that is the strength. That takes a lot of courage and strength to be who you are at those crazy hormonal changing years. You are
Hmm.
unique, and we need more of us to believe in ourselves to go with that
Right.
and to
Right.
not try and fit into mold, to not try and be in the popular group at school, because we are unique if we stand out. That's really,
Absolutely.
really important.
We're unique and nobody has it down. I mean, everybody is insecure in their own way. Nobody's
Yes.
content. And we're talking about teenagers, right?
Yeah.
And I feel for teenagers these days because you have to be media savvy. You have to worry about how will this read on Insta or TikTok. And it's too much. And so, let your little freak flag fly when you're 15
Yeah.
that is hard. That is so hard. And to
It's
to
so
to try and
good.
be authentic because you're still figuring out what authentic means for you. And
Yeah.
you're such a creature of your environment. It's hard to ignore everything around you. So, yeah, and now we have this vocabulary. So we don't, at least in our family, we're not, saying, oh, kids, you have to do this one narrow path. You can be a doctor or a lawyer or a disappointment. Take your choice. Like we're much more accepting of, trying to figure out your own wiring, figure out what gives you purpose, what gives you meaning, um, and then you'll probably be good at it, and it
Yeah.
won't translate into one job exactly because service, you could be, clergy, you could be a doctor, you could be a social worker, you could be a teacher. They're all the same, they all serve the same internal purpose,
Mhm.
but they're such different careers. And so it's a matter of finding like your wiring and then what's that subject matter that you also enjoy and connecting those dots. And that's what really fascinates me about this now, the last 10 years in education is how do we help kids not only, but with a focus on the tactile, but there's tactile in almost everything, at least in the physical world. And so how do we help people connect those dots? sooner and with less, like still while striving, while still trying hard, while still getting frustrated, but realizing there's many, many paths to take and paths that they may take may not be invented yet, right? Like I never
Absolutely.
thought
And
I'd be, you
not
know,
get freaking them out that they're not doing it perfectly right at the very beginning. Like walking into that's
exactly.
what, reading your website, maplewoodshop.com, right? But your website. Um, Seeing the photographs of the kids, the faces lighting up in the videos, these kids trying to use a saw and helping one another. And they've never done it before. And it's so great because they're in that space where it's okay. If you make a mistake, we'll fix it. We'll learn how to repair it. We'll cut it again or make something else. And that is what encourages someone to believe in themselves and that it's okay to take chances. And that's one of the many things that I love about Maplewood Shop. This has been really wonderful. And I'm so
Thank
glad
you.
we waited a year because
We
it's
got more
really worth
material.
every day. Mike, tell us what the kids' faces are like when they walk in the room for the first time.
Oh, so when they walk in, and this applies to adults as well, there's a lot of apprehension. They're excited. They conceptually like the idea of getting to do something, with their hands, using real tools, hammers, saws, etc. The smell of the pine is very appealing. And it's like a Rorschach test. You can very quickly see what kind of kid or person once how they're wired once they start woodworking because you've got the impulsive kids that want to just skip ahead. You've got the anxious kids that want to understand. You've got the kids who may have dyslexia because their visual acuity is off the charts. They're so good. They can see things in 3D in their heads. Um, and you have the kids that are a little more compulsive. And so, their personalities come out. And
Mhm.
what's also interesting is once they start, um, they help each other. And so we've gotten that feedback quite a bit that kids from different cohorts, different ethnicities, kids that would just never hang out in school are in
Mhm.
woodshop, they're hanging out. And the kid who hates school is never, always getting negative attention now is shining and is
Yeah,
finally
that's good.
finding
That's
their
great.
place where they're the
Yay.
hero. And that's why we do it. And
Mhm.
look, this in this day and age, we all need to find ways to be ourselves, accept others who have other viewpoints, realize that people generally want to do good and be good and have purpose and, give respect and get respect. They're not, it sounds exotic now, right? Which is sad, but it shouldn't be. And that's what we're up to. Having kids work across from each other in small groups, learning to solve problems together, realizing that if you can hold something in your hand and know its measurements, you know truth, but you can literally feel truth in your own hands. If you measure something wrong, it's not right, and you know that to be true as well. And so you can build that muscle of what truth feels like by working with your hands. And then you have the sense of what truth feels like so that when you're online and you see disinformation, you can say, I don't know, that seems
Mm,
weird. I know what truth feels like. That doesn't feel true.
that is great. I love that perspective. Oh, that is fantastic. It's, we forgot about compassion and just being human and helping one another, right? And
Right.
then they get to hold something in their hand that they've made,
Right.
which is
A
really
souvenir,
cool.
a lasting memory of
Yeah.
what collaboration felt like, what success felt like. And it's useful. It's a useful object. So it's funny. It sounds like a woodworking program, but it's a social emotional development program. It's a math program.
Therapy.
It's therapy, right? It's something my mom would have loved to do when she
Oh,
was young.
yeah.
It's their gender doesn't matter. It's just because back in the day, shop was reserved for the boys. The girls took home ec, you know?
Yeah.
And so now everyone's
Everyone
welcome.
gets to it. Well,
Yeah.
you and I both live in Maplewood, New Jersey. So my boys, before they even got into the middle school, that's right when they transitioned and they brought technology class and they got rid of home ec, which
Uh-huh.
everyone had raved everyone had raved and loved the home ec teacher and the home ec class. They're talking about they made this, cookies, baked this and that, all this really cool stuff. And then no disrespect to anybody, but the technology teacher that was brought in wasn't apparently a very good teacher. The kids knew more about the technology she was trying to teach them than she knew. So now it's been, well, they're out of college already, so it's been a number of years. And I hope it's brought back into all school programs, if that's possible. And can adults find you somehow, or
Sure. Yeah.
adult classes?
Absolutely. Come to maplewoodshop.com and we have some classes we can schedule up in our studio in Montclair.
Oh, neat. Okay.
Absolutely.
And you are on social media everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Threads, YouTube, and TikTok. Basically, it's either Maplewood Shop NJ or Maplewood Shop.
Correct. Yep.
What fun. Mike Schloff, thank you so much for
Jackie,
joining me.
thank
This
you.
has been really,
Pleasure.
I'm just giddy that you're doing this program, and make sure you keep me posted as to new advances, different states and different programs that you're doing. We didn't get to talk about the Carpenters Union, but I think I saw that on your website, maybe.
Yep, we offer a high school pre-apprenticeship program, which is really the Carpenters Union, and it's worth college credit. So we have a 9th grade program here in Columbia High School in Maplewood, South Orange, and and looking to expand here, elsewhere, to just help more kids not only find their purpose but also pathways to careers. And so with this great relationship with the Carpenters Union, we're enabling that elsewhere in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. To do more of that as well.
Oh, makes me so happy. These kids are going to have their hands on something and create. It's wonderful. Oh my gosh, Mike Schloff, Maplewoodshop.com. Oh my goodness. I am Jackie Tantillo. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Should Have Listened to My Mother.
Thank you.
Yeah, and please say hi to your mom.
I will. I think she was called. Back.